The Ashcroft Hotel had stood for over 100 years. Guests came. Guests left. But one mystery never did. Dozens of visitors claimed they had spent the night in room 214. The only problem? The hotel had never built a room 214. Daniel had investigated impossible cases before, but this one felt different. Every witness described the same room, the same wallpaper, the same old clock, the same woman waiting inside. Room 214? The receptionist froze. Her smile disappeared. She slowly looked at Daniel, then whispered, "Sir, we don't have a room 214. But fear in her eyes told a different story. Daniel slid a photograph across the desk. It showed 5 strangers, all claiming they had stayed in room 214. The receptionist stared at the picture. Her hands began to tremble. Then she quietly said, "You should leave before midnight." Daniel requested the hotel's original blueprints. The manager hesitated, but finally handed them over. Daniel traced every hallway. Room 211, 212, 213. Then, suddenly, room 215. Room 214 was missing. Daniel measured the empty space between rooms 213 and 215. It was large enough for another room. He placed his hand on the wall. Tap, tap. Then he heard it. A clock ticking behind the wall. Daniel knocked on the wall again. The ticking suddenly stopped. Complete silence. Then, 3 slow knocks came back. Knock. 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 Someone was answering from inside. Daniel stepped back. His flashlight flickered. For just 1 second, a wooden door appeared. Old, dusty, a brass number plate, 214. Then, it vanished again. Daniel reached for the doorknob. The cold metal sent a chill through his hand. Slowly, the handle turned by itself. The door opened just a few inches. From inside, a woman's voice whispered, "I've been waiting for you." Daniel pushed the door open. The room was impossible. It looked untouched, as if someone still lived there. A bed, a fireplace, an old grandfather clock, still ticking. But there was no one inside. Daniel searched the room carefully. Everything was covered in silence, until he noticed a framed photograph. It showed a smiling family, a father, a mother, a little girl. and standing beside them was Daniel. Daniel turned the photograph over. A handwritten note covered the back. It read, "Don't believe your memories." Before he could read another word, the grandfather clock suddenly stopped ticking. A calm voice broke the silence. "You've finally come back." Daniel turned instantly. An old woman sat quietly beside the fireplace. She wasn't afraid. She simply smiled, as if she had been waiting for years. Daniel whispered, "Who are you?" The woman looked into his eyes. "I've known you since you were 8 years old." Daniel's heart stopped. He had never seen her before. Daniel stepped closer. "That's impossible." The old woman slowly reached into her pocket. She pulled out a faded photograph. It showed an 8-year-old boy standing beside her. That boy was Daniel. Daniel grabbed the photograph. His hands were shaking. Then, a memory flashed through his mind. A little boy running through this very room, laughing, until everything suddenly went dark. Daniel held his head in pain. More memories rushed back. He remembered a little girl crying, someone shouting his name. Then, a locked wooden door, marked 214. Daniel looked at the old woman. "Tell me the truth." She took a slow breath, then quietly said, "You weren't investigating room 214. 30 years ago, you lived here." Daniel stepped backward. "That's impossible. I grew up in Chicago." The old woman slowly shook her head. "That's what they wanted you to remember." She pointed toward an old wooden wardrobe. "Your real answers are hidden in there." Daniel slowly opened the wardrobe. Inside, there were dozens of children's drawings. Every single one showed the same room, the same clock, the same window, and in every drawing, a boy who looked exactly like him. Hidden beneath the drawings, Daniel found an old leather diary. Its pages had turned yellow with age. He slowly opened it. The very first sentence read, "If you're reading this, they erased your memories again." Daniel turned the next page. His own handwriting filled every line. He froze. He had never written this diary. Yet, every word belonged to him. Daniel kept reading. The diary said, "This is your 4th attempt." He stopped breathing. 4th? He couldn't remember. Even the first one. Someone had erased them all. Suddenly, every light in the room went out. The fireplace died. The room became silent. Then, the grandfather clock began ticking again. 1. Slow,
tick. The clock ticked once.
Suddenly, Daniel forgot why he had entered the room. He looked around, confused, lost. Then he noticed the diary in his own hands and remembered, for only a moment. The old woman spoke softly. Every tick steals a memory. Every hour takes a piece of who you are. She looked directly at Daniel. If the clock strikes 12, you'll never remember your real name. Daniel looked at the clock. Tick. Suddenly, he couldn't remember his father's face. It was simply gone. Panic filled his eyes. The old woman whispered, "Now you finally believe me." Daniel opened the diary again. A sentence was circled in red. When the clock steals a memory, write it down immediately. Because once it's gone, only these pages will remember you. Tick. Another memory disappeared. Daniel couldn't remember his own home address. He quickly wrote it in the diary. Then he noticed fresh handwriting appearing by itself. Daniel slowly looked up. Someone was standing behind him. He turned instantly. Nobody. The room was empty. But the rocking chair was still moving. The rocking chair suddenly stopped. Daniel walked toward it. On the seat lay a detective badge. Same department, same number, same name. Daniel Carter. But it looked 30 years old. Daniel picked up the badge. Underneath it was another photograph. This one was different. It showed an older Daniel standing inside room 214, looking directly at the camera. Daniel turned the photograph over. There was only one sentence, written in black ink. Don't trust the woman. He looked up immediately. The rocking chair was empty. The old woman had disappeared. Daniel searched the room. No footprints, no open door, no sound. Then he caught his reflection in an old mirror. It wasn't copying him. It was still smiling. Daniel refused to look away. The reflection finally moved. It raised one finger, pointing behind him. Daniel spun around. Nothing. When he looked back, the reflection was normal again. Behind the mirror, Daniel discovered something hidden. A narrow metal safe. It had no keyhole. Only 4 numbers. Suddenly, he remembered seeing them before. 2, 1, 4, 7. Daniel examined the hidden safe. 4 empty slots. 4 numbers. Then he remembered. Every witness had mentioned the same time. 2:14 a.m. It wasn't a room number. It was a clue. Daniel carefully entered the code. 2, 1, 4. The safe clicked. But before it opened, the grandfather clock struck once. Daniel suddenly forgot why he was opening it. Daniel forced himself to focus. He looked at the unlocked safe, then quickly wrote, "Open the safe," in his diary, just in case. The clock erased his next memory. Daniel pulled the safe door open. Inside, there was only one item, a small cassette recorder. He pressed play. Static filled the room. Then, a familiar voice spoke. "Daniel, if you're hearing this, you're already too late." Daniel recognized the voice. It wasn't similar. It wasn't familiar. It was identical. The man on the tape was him. Older, tired, and terrified. Listen carefully. You've solved this mystery 3 times already. Every time, the clock erased everything. This is your last chance. Daniel rewound the cassette. One sentence kept repeating, "Don't destroy the clock." He frowned. Why not? Then the recording answered. "If the clock dies, so do you." Daniel stared at the clock. Every answer was leading back to it. He stepped closer, then noticed tiny scratches carved into the wooden frame. 4 simple words. "Remember before midnight." Daniel ran his fingers across the wooden carvings. One panel quietly slid open. Hidden inside was an old brass key. Attached to it, a tiny tag. It read, "Memory Chamber." Daniel searched the room. Then he saw it. Behind the bookshelf, a narrow hidden door. The brass key fit perfectly. He took one deep breath, turned the key, and the door slowly opened. Daniel stepped through the hidden doorway. The air felt colder. The passage stretched deep underground. His flashlight barely reached the end. Every footstep echoed, like someone was walking right behind him. At the end of the passage, Daniel found another door. It wasn't locked. It slowly opened by itself. Beyond it, countless shelves faded into darkness. He had found the memory chamber. Daniel stepped inside. The room was impossibly large. Shelves stretched far beyond the light. Hundreds, no, thousands of glass jars. Every single one glowed softly in the darkness. Every jar had a person's name. Daniel walked slowly, reading one after another. Then he froze. One shelf contained nothing except jars labeled Daniel Carter. Daniel reached for the nearest jar. His hands trembled. The glass felt warm. As soon as he lifted it, voices echoed around him. Then, the chamber disappeared. He was 10 years old again. Flames surrounded the old house. Smoke filled the night. Young Daniel stood outside, crying. Then he saw a man running into the fire. Before the smoke hit his face, Daniel realized the man was himself. The memory continued. Adult Daniel rushed inside, not to save the house, not to save himself, but to rescue one small wooden box. The same box hidden beneath room 214. Daniel reached the box. He opened it. Inside was a single photograph. A family portrait. But one face had been carefully burned away. As if someone wanted to erase that person forever. Daniel turned the photograph over. The back wasn't blank. Someone had written one sentence. The one you forgot was the one who saved you. Daniel's heartbeat stopped. If that was true, who had he forgotten? The memory chamber shook violently. Glass jars began to glow, one after another. Suddenly, hundreds of voices whispered together. Every voice was Daniel's, but each one remembered a different past. One glowing jar floated toward Daniel. Unlike the others, it had no date, no label, only one word: original. As his fingers touched the glass, every other memory went silent. The final memory unfolded. Room 214 never existed. Neither did the hotel. Everything Daniel had seen was built inside his own mind to protect him from one unbearable truth. Daniel remembered there had been no accident, no mysterious killer. Years ago, during the fire, he couldn't save his little sister. His mind created room 214, so he would never have to remember that night. Daniel opened his eyes. He wasn't inside room 214. He was sitting in a hospital therapy room. The doctor quietly smiled. Welcome back, Daniel. This is the first time you've remembered everything. Daniel looked outside the window, and for the first time in years, the ticking had finally stopped.